Aric Almirola, driver of the number 10 Pit Boss Grills Ford Mustang, looking good with your cap, sporting the sponsor there, looks good. If you've got a question for Aric, by all means, raise your hand. We got a couple already in queue, but if I can ask, we'll start with one question apiece, and then if we have time on the back end, you guys can ask your follow-up. So let's get started here with Mark Garrow. Go ahead, Mark, get us going.
Thank you. Thanks, Aric, for being with us. Number one, it's sort of a two-part, one question. How do you look at the start of the season? And I know that Fox put up some stats about what you would have to do to point your way in the rest of the way. What do you think of your start, and do you pay any attention to points at this point at all, and what you may have to do down the road?
Yeah, well, obviously we got off to a horrendous start. Not getting the points and bad finishes. The best thing that's happened to us all year is we won the duel and got 10 points. Otherwise, we would have left Daytona with literally no points. So it's been a tough start to the season, but Phoenix was a great way to turn our season around. And at this point, we just got to go race. We've got to get on track. We've got to get consistent and running in the top 10. Get consistent running in the top 5, and then, find ourselves in position to win races. I think it's going to be tough to point our way in at this point, but it's possible. It's certainly possible, especially if we get on a run like we did last summer where we were, running in the top 5 the entire race, scoring a lot of stage points. And I think we went 8 weeks in a row with top 5 finishes. So if we do that, we'll climb through the point standings really quickly. But we got to get there first.
Thank you.
Michael Shelton. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. Yes, well, Aric, you mentioned the run that you had last year starting at Homestead with the run of top 10 finishes. But obviously this is a much different schedule this time around. Of course, we have the dirt track at Bristol next week, and then you also have Circuit of the Americas and Road America and all these other wild card road tracks. So you're not looking too far ahead, but just how confident are you that you and your team can put together a similar run like last season with so many wild cards and uncertainties that lay ahead?
I am confident. We've got a really great race team. Like you said, we did it last year. We went on a run of top 10s and top 5 finishes for a couple of months straight. So it's possible. We just got to get back on track. We've got off to a rough start, and sometimes that happens, right? Life doesn't always go the way you want it to, and you go through some rough patches, but it doesn't stay that way forever, especially with a great race team like we have. So we will start getting the good finishes. Phoenix was a good day for us. We needed that kind of a day where we ran in the top 10, we scored some stage points, and we finished 11th. So a solid day, nothing spectacular, but not catastrophic like the weekends we had prior to that as well. So we'll get back on track. We're a great race team, and I have all the confidence in the world that we will start putting the finishes on the board that we need to.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on to Woody Kane, MRN. Go ahead, Woody.
Hey, Aric, thanks for your time. Talking about trying to get on the right track and get your momentum going, it's kind of tough in that you have so many different types of tracks here over the next few weeks, and specifically Bristol coming up on dirt. I'm wondering about your comfort level on dirt, and if you're doing anything like a lot of the other guys seem to be in terms of trying to run some of the preliminary races to get ready for it.
Yeah, I have done a little bit of testing on dirt. My car chief has a dirt modified that his son races, so I've been able to go with them and test some, and we plan to test the week leading into Bristol as well, just to get some laps and some reps. But I don't think anything is going to be representative of what we're going to have when we get to Bristol. So much of it.
Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Go ahead, Aric. I got it. Go ahead.
So much of it depends on, the track conditions and how much rain we get or don't get, how dry slick the racetrack's going to be. And then as far as, the cars are so much different than what we've had in the past. They're not anything like a modified. They're not anything like a late model. they're not like anything else. You know, they don't make nearly as much downforce as those cars, and the way that our suspension is built, they're not at all like most dirt cars. So it's going to be unique in its own right, and I've heard from a lot of people, you know, that think more like Richmond and Martinsville than dirt track racing.
Cool. Thank you, Aric. Appreciate it.
All right, sorry about that interruption there, Woody. I hope that doesn't hurt you too bad. Bob Pockres, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Aric, I mean, you were talking about you think you might still be able to point your way in, but it'd be tough. So, like, let's say this week, you know, some people may cut a stages into thirds because you're going to want to pit for tires, but you could do it on fuel with one stop. Does that play into your strategy at all? Do you risk, do you do different strategy to either gain stage points or do you go roll the dice for wins?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Bob, at this point, we've got to take the cards that are dealt to us when the race starts, and a lot of it depends on how your car is. You know, it's hard to gamble with a car that's not as competitive as it needs to be. So you have a lot more options when you have a fast race car, and you can kind of you know, pick and choose your strategy. Because you can be a little bit more in control of the race, not as worried about going multiple laps down when you do roll down pit road. So, you know, oftentimes you can every once in a while squeak something crazy out on strategy, but for the most part, you don't really win races on wild strategy anymore unless you have a fast race car, because somebody else is going to get on that same strategy as well. Somebody else has seen it. We've got a lot of smart engineers in the garage area and smart crew chiefs, and they see all the different scenarios and strategies that play out. And if, you know, a handful of cars get on that strategy that could be the race winning strategy, you've got to have a faster car than all those other guys to be the race winning car on that strategy. So a lot of it just depends on when you get to the racetrack and see how your car is competitive relative to the field.
Thank you.
Alex Andreev, go ahead, Alex, you're up.
Hey, Aric, you know, you've talked a little bit about this already, but I'm curious how the fact that there have been 5 different winners to open the season has sort of played into either the pressure that you feel or, you know, even the strategy that you guys do run going forward.
I don't know that we feel more pressure because of that. I mean, we feel pressure just because we're not performing like we know we should, or we're not getting the results that we know we should. So we feel pressure to turn our season around and start running the way that we know we're capable. You know, I'm on my 4th season at Stewart-Haas Racing, and have never, you know, gotten off to a start like this. We've always found ourselves, you know, in the top 10 or 12 in points by this time in the season, and usually comfortably in on points, and thinking about just being consistent and trying to win races when we have cars capable. Never have I been in a situation like we are in now, to where, you know, you're way on the outside trying to claw your way back into contention. So the old saying holds true, though. You know, the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time, and you know that's kind of our focus going forward. Is we got to take it one race at a time, and in every race we got to focus on just trying to score as many stage points as we can and trying to get the best finish we can. And if that means running 5th with a 5th place car, then we need to do that. And if we have a car capable of winning, then we need to do everything in our power to try and get the W.
All right, let's go on to Ashley McCubbin. Go ahead, Ashley.
Hey, Aric, thanks for your time today. Looking at this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway, you've had a couple decent runs, couple struggles there. What's it going to take to get a top 10 or top 5 this weekend?
Well, Atlanta's just a tricky place. It's really worn out, and the cars, you know, the cars slip and slide around there a lot. And now with this new package that we've had with the rules package, it's constantly a balance of drag out of your race car to make your car go fast versus downforce in your car, which makes it go a little bit slower on new tires, but usually takes care of the tires better throughout the long run. And when the tires do give up and the pace slows way down on older tires, more downforce, is helpful. So there's definitely a balancing act between figuring that out. And I think last year we had a couple cars out of SHR that were competitive and good. The 14 and the 4 were good. We started off the race good and then had some things go wrong throughout the race. We had a loose wheel and some other stuff that got us behind. But I feel like we have good notes. The 4 was competitive. The 4 was, I think, a top 5 car throughout the entire race, and then got their car really good at the end of the race and went on to win the race. So, Atlanta is certainly a track that is a possibility for us to go there and run up front and challenge to win.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Let's go on to Mike Solarte. Go ahead, Mike, if you're ready.
Thanks very much. Aric, do you find that your comfort level on the 1.5 miles and the layouts like Atlanta and maybe Charlotte and Texas are more, I guess, more comfortable for you? I mean, do you feel like that's kind of your sweet spot in terms of your abilities in getting around those places? Because I know you've run fast at Charlotte in the past, and you've run fast at a lot of places like those.
I don't know. I mean, I've been around the sport long enough to where I feel comfortable everywhere. I mean, I think Pocono used to be the one place that I went to that I was like, oh, not this place, because I was unsuccessful there for so long. But then last year we go there and I led a bunch of laps and, finished in the top 5 in both races. And honestly, we were chasing stage points and got off on a little bit different strategy. Otherwise, I feel like we had a car that should have won the first race there at Pocono last year. And we finished 3rd with a car that led the most laps and was really in contention to win all day. So I don't go to any racetrack anymore and feel uncomfortable. I feel good everywhere we go, other than the fact that you just never know what you're going to have, for a car. That things change so much. The rules change. The tire changes that Goodyear brings. Like, there's so many variables that you just never really know until you show up. And used to, we would show up for practice and have a chance to fix it or work on it. And now we show up and you don't know until the green flag waves. So that's the biggest challenge.
Thank you, Mike. Let's go on to Greg Engel. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, Aric. As you talk about, your performance isn't where you want it, obviously. And but
Greg, I can't hear you. You're gonna have to talk way louder.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello.
Barely.
Okay. Let me do this. Let me step aside. I'll send my message in chat, and Zach can ask it. How's that?
All right, that sounds like a plan. Go. Let's go that way. Let's go to Eric Smith. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, Aric, I'm just curious. You mentioned about the performance. Maybe this is Greg's question. How much would you say is more bad luck, or is there something maybe in the performance that you feel like is lacking this year compared to maybe years past?
I think a lot of it is just luck and circumstances, and then mistakes. Honestly, on my part, for a couple of them, Daytona 500 was just bad luck. There's nothing I could have done different. I was running second and got an aggressive push from behind from Christopher Bell and got turned and wrecked. So I don't know what I could have done different. So that was a circumstance out of our control. We go the very next week to the Daytona road course, and I was running inside the top 10 and spun out in the infield section of the road course and made a mistake and, got us way behind on track position late in the race and clawed our way back from 30th place back up to 16th or 17th place finish. Then we went to Vegas and we were just off. We were not good. Or maybe we went to Homestead next. That's right. Went to Homestead. I made a mistake again 2 weeks in a row. We had a decent car. Not great. We worked on it really hard to get it better. And I wrecked with Ryan Blaney. And, that resulted in a poor finish. And then we went to Vegas and we were just off. We were not good. And then bad luck, a piece of debris got inside the left front wheel and knocked the valve stem off the left front during the run. And we got a flat left front tire and wrecked and finished last. So, I think a lot of it has been bad luck and circumstances, but there's also been mistakes on my part as well. So we just got to clean everything up. We got to have better cars. The driver's got to do his job and not make mistakes. And we've got to have luck, turn and start going our way instead of against us.
Thanks, Aric. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, here's the question that Greg asked Aric, and it talks about, your new sponsor with Pit Boss Grills and with Smithfield who follow you. How do you keep your sponsors happy despite what's happening on the track? What's the secret?
Yeah, that's a great question. So much of what we do is performance driven. The sponsors love when we run up front because we're more relevant on TV and part of the broadcast, and just it makes everything better. Winning makes everything better. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, on the business side of things that is equally important to the partners as far as driving consumers to their product and, the business-to-business relationships and even just the personal relationships that I've made with these people at these companies. And so for me, that's one of the things that I have strived really hard at over the course of my career. And I feel like I've done a really good job in the last decade of getting partners and holding on to them and making sure that I over-deliver on every aspect that I'm in control of. You can't always control on-track performance as much as we wish we could, but the things that I can control away from the racetrack, I feel like I work extremely hard at that. And, it's created great partnerships and great relationships for me over the years that we've been able to, keep partners around for a long time.
Thanks, Aric. Thanks, Zach.
You're welcome. We've got two more, Aric, and then we'll let you go. Let's go to Joe Samaniego.
Thank you. Aric, I know you mentioned about the bad luck. A lot of times this year after the Daytona 500, you've been starting towards the back. The starting towards the back make the race more challenging going towards the front, and is starting hopefully up front this week in Atlanta just a great way to approach going for a top 5 and a win?
Yeah, so starting in the back is a dagger every week, and that's the hard part about the situation that we're in now. Not only the fact that we don't get practice, but that when you have a bad weekend, it doesn't end with that weekend. It carries over into the next week. Used to, if you had a bad weekend, you could put it behind you. You go to the racetrack the next weekend, and it's a fresh start. You practice, you qualify, you have an opportunity to qualify up front and get a good pit selection and a good starting spot and really start completely over with that brand new weekend. Now, when you have a bad weekend, it really carries over to the next weekend because you have a bad starting spot, you have a bad pit selection. A bad pit selection usually means that you're going to be pitting around other cars that are competitive and on the lead lap. So you're constantly going to be battling with them getting in and out of your pit box. It just makes everything more difficult and harder to dig out of these holes. So yeah, it is a challenge. With starting in the back, not scoring stage points. Usually in the first stage, when you start deep in the field, it's hard to come through the field and score stage points in stage one when you start in the back. So it's just a really different approach in a different set of circumstances now with starting the race based on how you finished last time and your pit selection and everything being geared off of that. It definitely makes the momentum harder to swing and turn it around.
Thank you.
All right, Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dusty.
Thank you. Aric, you referenced earlier about Bristol. Some people referenced, think more like Martinsville and Richmond than a dirt track. What do they mean by that? Can you further explain that, please?
From what I've heard from a lot of people, it's not like typical dirt car racing. You don't have the car really hung out sideways, standing in the gas and just slinging mud. The cars drive a lot straighter. on the dirt these big heavy stock cars do. They're not running super sideways. They're not, you know, you're not driving them like you would a typical dirt car. So I think that's what everybody has really referenced, is that, you know, the cars are not way up on the left side and dug in with the right side tires. There's just a lot of differences in the way that the dirt cars drive and the way that they race versus how, you know, I'm expecting, and from what I hear and what I gather, our cup cars to drive on dirt.
Thank you.
All right, let's close it out with Mike Solarti, Aric, and then we'll let you go. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Zach. Aric, going back to the bad finish carries into the following week, you know, with your starting spots and that sort of thing. And I know you're not a doctor, but with the way that the COVID vaccine is rolling out and people are getting vaccinated and you know, we're trying to close in on a return to normalcy, is there talk in NASCAR or talk amongst the teams that you might be at some point returning to those days of having the opportunity to practice and qualify and get back to those fresh starts week in and week out? And it sounds like that might be something you might welcome. I mean, right now, I know you'd like to, because that give you the opportunity to do that, but has there been talk about that? And what is there optimism about that?
I'm optimistic for sure. I'm ready for this pandemic to go away and life to return back to normal. But if there's been any of those talks, I've not been a part of them. I'm not sure, Mike. I do not know of any sort of forecast on when things may return back to what we considered normal pre-pandemic.
It sounds like you would welcome that opportunity, you know, unless of course you maybe become the 6th different winner this season, this weekend, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, but even still, I would for sure welcome getting back to some sort of normal. I miss, you know, having the fans around at the racetrack. I miss having my family at the racetrack. I miss just, you know, traveling with the team and being around in the garage area, and that human-to-human interaction is something that I really enjoy. And so not having that is tough. But then on top of that, you know, not having practice, you know, not being able to qualify, all of those things are challenges, especially when you have a bad week. It's hard to rebound the next week because that bad finish does carry over into the next week.
Well, Aric, thank you so much for taking some time and joining us this afternoon, and best of luck this weekend.